Welcome to the Flash Finds podcast, the world's fastest podcast where we explore how Facebook can help you with the stuff you're into. I'm Emma Rogue, joined by Nathan the Cat Lady, a Facebook creator. So Nathan, if you're into pets, what kind of stuff can you find on Facebook?
Well, I make reels about useful tips for pet owners. For instance, cats don't like still water, so all of my cats have cat fountains.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. What a great episode. See you next time on the Flash Finds podcast, all about discovering the stuff on Facebook you care about. Bye.
Today on City Cast Madison. It's the Friday News Roundup. This week, I'm joined by City Cast Madison's Hayley Sperling and Ava Wojnowski. Two recent court cases pack a punch: the overturn of the ballot box ban, and a Dane County Circuit judge says Act 10 violates parts of the state constitution. A family protests against UW-Madison after UW unenrolled their teen who has disabilities from a pre-college program. And this weekend will be a trifecta of some of Madison's most celebrated festivals. It's Friday, July 12th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Welcome to the Friday News Roundup. It's summer in the city, and Wisconsin and Madison are, as usual, staying active in every sense. We're talking a lot of action, activism, and art this week. So let's get to it. Hayley Sperling, our executive producer, how are you?
Hello, Bianca. I'm so good.
Yes. And Ava Wojnowski, our interim newsletter writer, what's good?
How's it going?
It's going really, really swell. I like to see Madison and the state of Wisconsin staying true to her colors, staying active in activism. There are some very big cases in our court system that we want to talk about. And Hayley, you're kicking us off. So what's happening?
Yeah, it has been a busy month for our court system. We have had two big rulings recently come out, one from the Wisconsin Supreme Court regarding ballot boxes, and the other from a Dane County court surrounding the infamous Act 10. We're going to start with the Supreme Court ruling because last week, the Wisconsin Supreme Court reversed course on a ruling that announced that ballot boxes are, in fact, allowed for use in the state of Wisconsin. This is a pretty big deal because this decision comes 2 years after the court, which had a conservative majority back then in 2022, deemed the use of ballot boxes illegal. So essentially, a little flip-flop going on here. Why the change? Well, for one, the court now has a liberal majority. This is no secret that the court was going to re-examine this case. It was really, truly a matter of time. In Madison, the city clerk's office is working to get these boxes up and running again. And if you recall, these boxes, they're outside of 13 of the 14 city fire stations. They're in Elver Park, and they're currently decorated as public art and locked up because we couldn't use them. But the city clerk's office is working to get them going again, and the mayor of Madison applauded the court's decision, saying, quote, "I'm so pleased that common sense has prevailed and that Wisconsin now has a high court interested in expanding voting rights rather than restricting them. Absentee voter drop boxes are a safe, secure, and convenient ways for voters to return their ballot." So we're still not 100% sure when these boxes are going to be up and running again and ready for use. But again, the city clerk's office is zooming up on it, and they're working on their way to get these things turned into functional uses of democracy again, right? So score one for democracy, and we're excited. We keep it moving.
Democracy claps back.
Democracy claps back.
Or I guess the court.
Yeah, right.
It's part of the system.
It is. So it goes. Yeah, and now the Dane County court news. So this was also a big one that came out recently. A Dane County judge announced that parts of Act 10 violated the state's equal protection provisions of the state constitution. I can back up a sec here because, what the heck is Act 10? We talk about it all the time, and it's one of those things where it's like, you had to be there, but you don't have to be there. I'm going to explain it to you. To put it very, very simply, because we could spend hours on this subject, Act 10 is a highly controversial piece of legislation that was enacted under Scott Walker in 2011. And the whole point of Act 10 was to hopefully address the state's growing budget deficit. In practice, though, it significantly altered collective bargaining rights for most public sector employees. And it had a lot of trickle-down effects. It sparked massive protests at the state capitol. I remember back in high school, like my AP Euro teacher literally drove from St. Louis Park, Minnesota to Madison, Wisconsin to like go protest. And I thought that was pretty cool. And ultimately...
Oh, the streets were swole with people.
It was huge.
Yeah, it's a like never forget moment if you were here.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. And there's so many pictures online. Like you can just go look it up and see like people really occupied the Capitol. This was something that mobilized voters. This mobilized unions. It mobilized so many different people, again, from around the country. And again, in practice, it really led to a decline in union membership among public sector employees and influenced a lot of elections to come. So fast forwarding to November 2023, a group of government employee unions filed a lawsuit hoping to strike down Act 10 as unconstitutional. Fast forwarding again to July 2024, where we are today, a Dane County judge agreed that the lawsuit is valid. And right now, he's currently waiting on the plaintiffs of that lawsuit to submit letters explicitly laying out which parts of Act 10 they deem unconstitutional. And what this comes down to is essentially that, like, some public sector employees, like municipal police, fire, and state troopers, were considered, quote, public safety employees, and therefore they had their bargaining rights. But Capitol Police, UW Police, conservation wardens, and people who essentially like have the same authority and are doing the same work were not considered public safety employees and had their bargaining rights severely restricted.
And obviously, can we just point out the fact that how important these rights must be if like the most valued, and I mean, they're saying, you know, the people that they identified were the most valued and you guys get to keep it. You know why they did that?
Right.
Because they want them and they're helpful.
Because it's huge. But that's so big. It's like, that's the point, right? It's like, that's such a big reason of like why these jobs are so interesting to people, like why people want to be part of that public sector, why they want these, you know, great high paying union jobs. And basically the judge was like, you can't tell me that there's really a difference in these jobs, like, and why, like, their responsibilities are very similar. So why are they being treated unequally with, quote, no rational basis for that difference? Which is a fair argument. And I mean, he's the judge, he's deciding. So like I said, the judge is now collecting letters from the folks who filed the lawsuit, and he's going to issue a final ruling once he decides like what comes in and like which parts of Act 10 specifically are unconstitutional. So where do we go from here? Hopefully onward, hopefully forward, hopefully we leave Act 10 behind and never have to talk about it again. But that's definitely not going to be the case. We're definitely going to be watching this story. There's going to be more news to come. I'm very curious to see how this unfolds. It's crazy to think that, you know, this was enacted in 2011 and we are still talking about it today.
It's crazy. And I mean, it was just such a landmark change in the state. And it's, you know,
Absolutely.
a decade later, and it impacted every system.
And hopefully, like I said, you know, hopefully we exist in a future where all of our Wisconsin employees are treated equally. And that's all we can ask for, right?
That's all we can ask for. But you know what else we're asking for? More news. But before we get to any more news, let's take a quick break.
Want to know one of my favorite sounds? Here it is. That's the sound I hear when I'm learning Spanish with Babbel. And if you want to learn a new language this year, I guarantee it'll be one of your favorite sounds too. I'm David Plotz. I'm the CEO of City Cast, and I've been doing Babbel for a few weeks, and it's been so much fun. This week, I've been learning lots of food vocabulary and how to order in a restaurant. This is one of the things I love about Babbel, is that it's about learning the language so that you can use it. As Babbel says, it's designed by real people for real conversation. So it's all based on real life situations. And these restaurant lessons are awesome. When I went to Mexico City last year with my girlfriend, I was mute. But next time, I'm going to be ordering the sopes and las salsas picantes. Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold, plus all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for City Cast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for City Cast listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Ray-Ban Meta Smart Glasses help you make the most out of every moment. Hey Meta, text Naeem. Got us a table. This spot looks legit. Hey Meta, look and translate this for me.
It says traditional lime soup with chicken.
Hey Meta, take a photo. Ray-Ban Meta Smart Glasses. Learn, connect, and capture content hands-free, so you can stay in the moment. Iconic style meets cutting-edge technology with Ray-Ban Meta Smart Glasses.
All right, we've been hearing about ballot boxes and changes possibly coming around the Act 10 decision. It's a lot of activism and art thinking about our ballot boxes and art on them. A story caught our attention, right, from Madison 365. And then we saw a story at WKOW 27 News about a mother and her 14-year-old teenager who have been protesting at UW-Madison for nearing 2 weeks now. Why? This ninth grader from Beaver Dam, Kitty Stewart Trivedi, who uses they, them pronouns, was accepted into UW-Madison's Accelerated Learning Program in April, a pre-college program that's a 3-week residential program designed for academically gifted high school students, which, it's a great feeling to get into UW. Anything that they're doing, right? Fantastic. 2 days before the program, their family was notified that they were unenrolled. Kitty was unenrolled from the program 2 days before. So Kitty has something called Golt syndrome, which is a rare genetic disease that impacts mobility. They also have a prosthetic leg and are legally blind in one eye. So they need accommodations. And the reason why they were unenrolled, UW basically said, was because they are unable to meet all of Kitty's accommodations, as their mother, Lena Trivedi, submitted the required forms too late. And there's a reason for this. So it's kind of a big mess. And the parent, Lena and Kitty, have been on campus with other people supporting them, trying to bring attention to what's happened to this opportunity that they expected Kitty to get and feel like it was taken away unfairly. And now they want people to know how they were treated. So let's get a little bit into what happened and why, how we got here. Basically, the mom, as soon as Kitty, the student, was accepted into this program, pretty shortly afterwards, the mother started making correspondences with UW to work on accommodations. But it turns out that they missed some deadlines, which they've admitted to. Ava, didn't you say you saw people protesting?
Yeah. I went to DeJope to go play tennis on the tennis courts over there, and I saw a group of people. And I'm assuming then that Kitty was there, and there were a bunch of other people. I want to say that there were 8 to 10 people gathered and talking, and they had a sign talking about how someone was not let into a program due to their disability. And then later I saw this article, now realizing that it was definitely Kitty who they were referring to. So yeah, it was really, I walked past them and didn't really know what was going on. And then, like I said, saw the article and kind of educated myself later on. But just overall, really, really difficult, sad circumstance to hear about for sure.
Yeah. It's really hard to watch it. And, I've seen them now. They've been interviewed on 27. And it was, I don't know, it's devastating. But I should share the statement that UW-Madison put out, at least, a good part of it here. They said that information that was required from the family to participate was provided to the program weeks late and was incomplete. As a result, and without adequate time to coordinate with on and off campus partners, UW-Madison has not had sufficient time to review, determine, or plan for a reasonable accommodation. It was communicated prior to the start of the program that the student could not attend the current session. And The mother did say that they missed the deadline for some of the forms. They had notified UW. The reason for that being is that Kitty had surgery in May. And so both the stories we saw, they shared an email between the family and UW where Lena, the mother, explained the circumstances, saying, hey, Kitty had surgery. And the UW staff person said, quote, no worries, unquote, and said, here are the forms that are needed. Well, there were worries. And this is just a good note for anyone. Do not overpromise. If you're short-staffed, whatever the reasons, it's on you. It is in your court. You tossed the ball back and then later said, hey, you guys didn't have what you needed. Well, there you said no worries. And it's just sparking a lot of conversation generally about ableism and these processes. And UW-Madison, your capacity to really be an inclusive environment for people who are differently abled, who are, neurodivergent, all of the different considerations. And if someone is accepted into the program and they've communicated early on that they need accommodations, like how are you taking care of that? And what kind of space are you making to ensure that they have a good shot at being a part of this program? Because it just doesn't look good. I hate their statement. I hate your statement, UW. I think it's extremely heartless. It's a bad look. We acknowledge your disappointment, but you failed to do all these things. Okay, you look really bad, and I'm upset with this whole thing.
It's kind of giving like, I'm sorry you feel that way, which is the ultimate non-apology.
Yeah.
UW spokesperson John Lucas said in an email to Madison 365, and this was included in that story that we read, that, quote, some information that has been shared about the situation is inaccurate or misleading, end of quote.
And I mean, I'll say like this story is messy to begin with. There's a lot of moving parts. The 365 story does a really good job of providing all of the documents, which like Bianca mentioned, emails, back and forth correspondence. And again, like it is hard when people have different schedules and need different accommodations and whatnot. But like, that doesn't mean that this isn't something that is still very important, especially when, hey, July is literally Disability Pride Month. It's kind of a slap in the face. And Kitty and their mom have been chronicling their protest on Instagram. And I remember watching one of the Instagram videos where Kitty was debriefing a meeting that they had with a UW administrator. And the administrator was like, well, like, what happens if you need to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom? And Kitty was like, I'll stand up and I'll go to the bathroom. Like, that's literally not the question at hand, and then the administrator had admitted to like not even reading the full documents and like the extent of the support that Kitty really needed. And so it's really frustrating. And I think this could have been handled a lot differently. I think it could have been handled a lot better. I think it opens the door to conversations that we need to be having around surrounding disability and accessibility on campus. UW, of course, has the McBurney Center, but it seems like that has not really been a big point of help in this case, which it really should have been. So I don't know. What does UW need to do? Hire more staff, go through some more training. We'll see what happens. I wish Kitty all the best because clearly like they're a gifted and talented person. I know in the 365 story, they're like, I aspire to be an animator. I think that's super awesome. And again, clearly like they got into this awesome UW program. So they're a high achiever. Like, let them spread their wings and fly and make it happen.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack. It's a lot to unpack with this one.
And we should note that UW-Madison has said that enrolling in next summer's program is an option for Kitty, but neither they nor Lena, their mother, are open to that idea right now. And it's interesting. The name that this had accelerated course was that Kitty was enrolled in and then unenrolled this summer is called Art, Activism, and Advertisement. So they're basically getting a crash course into all three, even though UW-Madison unenrolled them. And I love everything you said, Hayley. It's a time to at least like be having these conversations and recognizing what's really possible. And I just want to know one of their signs said, academic excellence includes disabled students. So
yes, it does.
Something to think about.
It absolutely does.
All right. Y'all, we talked about activism and art, and there's more art happenings going on UW. Ava, you've got some scoops on things folks should pay attention to for the weekend. Everybody's working for the weekend. What's going on, Ava?
Yeah, there's a lot on deck for this weekend in Madison. I feel like that's kind of your average weekend for summers in Madison. But to begin, yesterday marked the start of La Fête des Marquettes at McPike Park. This is a free festival that is going on through the 14th. So there will be artists performing, there will be food vendors, and even a karaoke competition, which I know Hayley talked about in a podcast we did previously. And along with this, all the different artists that are coming in are kind of from all over the world. So definitely you want to check out that schedule, which we will have in our show notes for you folks, because there's a lot to see, there's a lot to hear. It's a great way to get out in Madison, great way to see people, and a great way to spend your summer. And then another festival, or a couple festivals that are coming up this weekend, along with La Fête des Marquettes, includes both Art Fair on the square and Art Fair off the square. So this is an opportunity to see a bunch of local artists and also artists from all over the country. To begin, for the art fair on the square, there will be live music, different food vendors, and of course, lots of art for you folks to see. This free festival that highlights artists all over the country will be taking place Saturday, July 13th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, July 14th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then if that wasn't enough, like I said, there's also going to be art fair off the square. This will be taking place the same dates and times, but it'll be between the Capitol and Monona Terrace. The biggest difference to note with these two festivals is that the art fair off the square is only looking at Wisconsin artists. So you're only going to get artists from the state. So definitely something you want to check out. You want to check both of them out. There's going to be a lot of art, a lot of things for people to see. Bianca or Hayley, I know we kind of talked about this in the past, but have either of you been to either of these art festivals? Have you purchased anything? What have been your kind of experience with going to these in the past?
I love art fair on and off the square. It's like one of my favorite summer events in Madison because I am not a morning person, so I usually don't get up early enough to go around the farmer's market. But with art fair, since it's an all-day thing, I still get the rush of walking very slowly around the Capitol Square in the daytime, probably wearing a sundress and feeling very fancy. I love it. I love talking with all the vendors and like seeing their art. I am a huge fan of like weird and quirky art, and with that, like weird and quirky artists. I've definitely spent way too much money on art fair in the past, and I plan to do it again this year. You can't stop me. I'm an adult.
Yes. My answer to your question, Ava, is yes. I'm with you, Hayley. I have spent too much at art fair on the square. This is not us telling you not to spend. It's just like kind of fun to spend your money on local artists. But I've met, I just love meeting the artisans. Like it's really, really neat. I'm pretty sure my first art fair on the square was when I was working as a gallery attendant at Momoka, who throws the whole event. So the Madison Museum of Contemporary Art puts the art fair on the square, and it's like the biggest event of the year, and it's a complete hoot and a half. And like meeting the artists, like I met, and then you get to buy something from them, so you feel connected. But someone from New Orleans. Last year, I bought a painting for my friend of Greta, the Lady Gremlin. It's just a lot of fun, and the diversity of art is really, really neat. And yeah, art fair on the square is worth the hype.
Last year, I think that like the biggest thing that I saw last year in terms of art, I saw a lot of Barbie because, we were in like peak Barbenheimer season. So I'm curious to see if there's going to be any other like cult classics there this year. But yeah.
Some Chappell Roan, Sabrina Madison. Oh, Sabrina Madison. That's our older. Hey, Sabrina Madison. Sabrina Carpenter, the pop star of the summer.
Yeah, but going off of kind of what you're saying, like supporting local, I just think it's so cool to have the opportunity to meet the artist behind the piece. I feel like a lot of time when folks are buying art, you don't really get that one-on-one interaction. You don't get to engage with the artist. You don't get to kind of hear their story. So this is a great opportunity to not only get amazing art, but meet the amazing artists, which I think is just classic Madison experience of doing something kind of above and beyond and get that really fulfilling experience. But kind of going off of something that Hayley mentioned, going for the farmer's market, since art fair on the square is going to be happening, the farmer's market is getting a new location this weekend. They will be at Bree Stevens Field from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. And something to note is that due to this location change, they are looking for some volunteers to help out from 5:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. So all those super morning folks out there. to help move vendors from the field entrance onto the field. So we'll put that email for volunteering into the show notes for you folks as well. But just know that you're going to get a new location, a great location for your farmers market this weekend. And I want to give one little last shout out, not necessarily for this weekend, but kind of coming up to put on your folks' radar. Madison Restaurant Week is coming up from July 21st to the 26th. You can start making reservations now for all the different restaurants. So you can try their whole 3-course meal that'll be at fixed prices for a bunch of different restaurants around Madison, including Heritage Tavern, Zen Ramen, Sultan, and a bunch of other classics. So you definitely want to kind of get your name into those reservations at all the great restaurants because, as we know, Madison's got a lot of them. So definitely check that out as well.
I love it. We love Restaurant Week. It's the best way, I think, like if you're never sure about like, oh, this restaurant is new and I haven't been there, like Restaurant Week is the best time to go because like it's usually very reasonably priced. You get good food and it's always a fun time. I would say my hottest tip for Restaurant Week too is not all of the restaurants, but some of them also do like lunch specials. And those are usually like super cheap. So if you're looking to ball out on a budget, Restaurant Week lunch, you heard it here first.
You heard it here first. We're balling out and we're about to roll out because it's time for the weekend. Hayley Sperling, Ava Wojnowski, thank you so much for rounding up the news with me this week.
Thanks, Bianca.
Thanks, guys.
That's all for today here on City Cast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, your host. We're produced by Phil Circus. Hayley Sperling is our executive producer. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen. Ava Wojnowski is our interim newsletter editor. You can always get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter, Madison Minutes. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who champions civil rights? See you back here Monday morning with more news from around the city. Until then, have fun.